It's UvaldeRadio.net. I'm Robert Miguel. We are at the Uvalde Classical Academy for School Choice Week, which is kind of a cool thing. And with me, Larri and Wright. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good here. So it's School Choice Week, and so everybody should know, Uvalde, we've got our public school system, Uvalde CISD. But what you may not know is that there's some really great private school options here in Uvalde and in the city and the county. And you guys are one of the bigger ones that are just you've grown a lot over the years, right?
We have. We are at 103 students this year.
Wow. Okay. So Uvalde Classical Academy. Go ahead and give us the address and the pertinence for those who might have driven by but didn't know exactly what you guys are.
Sure. We are located next door to the Chamber of Commerce. We're at 400 North Getty. We are in the old Gabriel Tafoya Charter School building, which was originally a savings and loan.
Yeah, I think my parents, used to go to the savings. I think I used to get suckers out here, in the 70s.
Absolutely. We get that a lot.
Yeah. So that's the last time I was in this building. So it's really kind of cool to be in here and see students outside. Yeah,
sure.
Just it looks like a nice, nurturing, learning environment. So
Absolutely.
That's exciting. So yeah, right there by the chamber. You've driven by, off Getty many times, I'm sure. But how long has Uvalde Classical Academy been around now?
Uvalde Classical Academy has been around from its original inception and thought process, 12 years. My son is a senior in high school this year, and it actually started in a friend's living room as a homeschool for 2 years, and he was in the first grade. It moved out of a homeschool setting and into an actual formal school setting 10 years ago. So this would be our 10th year as an organized school with other families involved and teachers on staff and so forth.
So your son will essentially be the first graduating class that will be kind of like the full from the inception, right?
Well, actually he would have been, but he was the only one left in his grade level at that point. So he actually started attending the junior college full time. So we currently have a class of 10th graders and one 11th grader, and two of our 10th graders are 10th grade students. When they graduate in 2 years, those two girls will actually be the first to go through kindergarten all the way through 12th grade.
That's fantastic.
It is exciting.
So that's got to be some interesting timelining and hindsight for you, right? I'm sure you've seen right from the very beginning.
From the very beginning. I've been pretty much in every capacity this school has to offer. I have served in that capacity, and it has been amazing to see what God's done in the 10 years since we came together.
Well, tell me about the inception. You mentioned homeschooling.
Yes.
What was the, impetus to start the homeschooling, and then how did that evolve?
Well, it started with just 2 or 3 families came together and just had an idea for something that they wanted for their children, not necessarily, thinking at that time that it was supposed to be better than public school, but it was supposed to be more Christian than public school. And
Gotcha.
that was the motivation. They wanted to be able to integrate the Christian thought process through every part of their learning. They wanted a smaller class setting, and it just kind of bloomed from there.
Yeah, and I think those are the times we're living in now. I think where people of faith really need to kind of decide, because I've been saying this, and I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I don't mind saying it right now, because we're talking about the reasons for school choice, and that is no matter where you are, and I love Uvalde CISD, but a lot of that's on a federal level, on a state level, that's not necessarily controlled here locally, and there is content and information, or that's included or not included, that may sway to a mindset or a belief system that you may or may not fully agree with, and your kids are learning it, and then once they get to college, boy, it's even worse, So yeah,
it definitely can be. That's right, and UCA is not for everyone. Everyone's not for UCA. Everyone's not meant for public school. I think that there is a school setting for every child out there, whether it be homeschooled, whether it be private school, non-Christian private school to public school. Every child is different, and parents just have to pick what's going to work best for those children and for their family.
Well, let's talk about the Christian part of the curriculum. How does that vary from another Christian school or the public school in general?
Well, from the public school, it's kind of obvious.
Right.
They're getting a full integration of the Christian concept through everything. Science, math, everything is taught from God's creation and that perspective. We need math because God created it. He's made it serve its purpose in the world. And so, we incorporate all of our history lessons are from a biblical perspective. Our children learn biblical timeline and history timeline simultaneously. So they're able to see what they may learn in a public school or in the secular side of history. They see exactly when that was happening. At the same time, biblical things were actually happening. And so it helps them tie those things together. It just also helps them view everything from a biblical perspective to be able to evaluate, were things done in history, were decisions made by specific people in history, were they done from a Christian perspective, were they things that should have been done in the first place. And so they're able to actually evaluate things that led to war, what led to the next consequence of that war, and how should it been handled. If it had been handled differently, what would the outcome be today from a Christian perspective? So they're able to just kind of evaluate everything a little bit differently than what a traditional student would.
Now, one of the things I think is a valuable insight, I guess, is Christian apologetics. Is there a certain amount of that's in where we're enabling the students to
Absolutely.
kind of, because there's a push on the outside for lack of belief in God, atheism, whatnot.
Sure.
Where I think that anybody that's really is trying to keep our young rooted in God's word and our belief needs to get them prepared for what they're going to encounter later in life. When it's not so easy, it's easy to kind of, when you're a kid, to read the Jesus made fish and bread and the miracles.
Exactly.
But when you're in real life and you're working and and you're learning much more complicated math and science,
right.
that pushes is apologetics a part of this thing?
Absolutely. So in our grammar, we have with a classical school setting, we observe what we consider the trivium. So we have the grammar stage, the logic stage, and the rhetoric stage. And so in the grammar stage, very similar and recognizable to what families would see elsewhere. Lot of memorization, hounding in those facts, and it's geared to what that mind is capable of at that time. But then when they reach about 7th grade, they start to enter the logic phase. And so they're able to start to reason. And so in our school, when they do reach 7th grade, they spend 1 year doing a full Old Testament and New Testament survey. So they're learning a little bit deeper level of what they've already learned in kindergarten through 6 as far as the actual Bible stories and the history timeline and the Bible history, like you're mentioning. But in the logic phase, they're able to actually start to see what the word means and how important the word is in application to today's life.
Like more on theology.
Exactly.
And
so then once they finish that survey to actually learn the word and true scripture, they move into those apologetics. So we have a series that we use for our rhetoric school, which is our high school. They spend 1 year on understanding the faith, 1 year on understanding the times, and then they'll spend another year on understanding the culture. And so it's a deeper apologetics course to help them evaluate what's going to go happen in their life when they leave high school, what may be happening at home already. And so it definitely, a lot of our focus in those upper school grades is on apologetics, both in their Bible class specifically and in their history and their literature.
I think that's fantastic. I think that as a person of faith myself, that is the biggest obstacle I think that we're facing in modern times, is that Christians just aren't empowered. They don't know enough about the word, and you ask them what they believe, they go, yeah, well, I believe it, but they don't know how to necessarily communicate that or
defend it.
Or define it even,
Exactly.
And you really need to know what you believe and
Right.
be able to say, hey, you know what, this is how, this is why. And here's a few references as well too. It's not all pie in the sky. There is science to back it up. You just have to do a little digging for it. So yeah, I think that's very interesting. So as far as when these kids leave Uvalde Classical Academy, what's the where do generally most of them go? Are they going to college? What are you empowering them for? What are you preparing them for?
We're preparing them for college with the understanding that college is not for everyone. We know that there are going to be students out there who want to attend trade school. We know there are young ladies who feel the calling to be a mom. And we know that college is not for everyone, and everyone has their own plan that God has set out for them, and whatever they're called to do, we want them to be well prepared to do it, whatever it may be.
Well, now go ahead and define classical education, because I think that's a word that somebody might go, what exactly does that mean?
Right, sure. Well, and like I said, the main part of classical education is just teaching to that trivium, preparing them for the stage that their mind is ready to take. And so the grammar stage is basically the foundation of every subject. It's fundamental. It's memorizing facts, the rules of the different subjects, your grammar and things like that. Logic, they start to put relationships in order, math relationships, science relationships, human relationships. There's a set order to everything, and they learn how to logically apply the rules that God has set out and to recognize fallacies and arguments that people are going to use, whether it be for math, science, religion, or whatever the case may be, to be able to recognize those fallacies. It's cute to see them realize some of the commercials they watch use fallacies against them to sway them to purchase things. And we've had parents mention that their children are learning how to argue effectively.
That's good.
So it is good. They're not arguing.
Sometimes they'd argue with us too. Sometimes they have to win. It's all right.
Exactly. And then our rhetoric stage is basically they're applying everything that they've learned. They're able to articulate, put everything in written and spoken word, and defend their faith, define their faith, like you said, and serve a greater purpose.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic curriculum. Now, you mentioned 103 kids here now. 103. One building, and it's pretty wide open. What's the student body made of? Like the age groups? How many class sizes?
Sure. So
and how do they interact? I guess also too.
Right. So we have about 70 students that are in pre-K through 6th grade.
Okay.
And we do have two smaller annex buildings on the same property, and so we have one classroom per grade level, basically. Our pre-K through 4th grade are capped at 10 students per grade level, and most of those classes are full to capacity. And then our 6th through 7th grade, we have a little bit of fluctuation there to put in a couple of more students. And so we actually expanded to 2 5th grades this year because we had so many students in that grade level. And then in our high school, we've only got about 7 or 8 high school students, like I said, because that 10th grade group is the oldest group. And those students tend to drop off at that age level because of sports and public school and things like that, which is completely understandable. That's, it's a great reason to go, to be active. But they get a lot of interaction. We have chapel twice a week where all of the student body is together. They work with different classrooms together. The younger students really look up to the older students. Yeah. It's fun to see them all work together and have different activities together. So they do get a lot of interaction during the day, and really the older kids, you can see them kind of scoop the littles up underneath their wing and watch over them.
I would think that would be a really valuable part of the whole thing, where, I believe that we're just doing a disservice to our kids in public schools many times because they're kind of in a bubble, all the 7th graders together, all the 5th graders together, all kind of within their level of maturity, only bouncing ideas off of those same 5th grade / whatever grade. But in an environment like this, it seems like, having a kindergartner that might, develop a friendship with a senior, or a junior high kid. I imagine that would just nurture some really great relationships and almost like big brother sister kind of.
Absolutely. It allows two things. I think it gives our older students an opportunity to mentor to the younger students and set an example, but it also gives our younger students some accountability, because our older students will actually watch and call them out when something is not appropriate, or they think that they could maybe handle something a little bit better, and they really do mentor to those smaller students.
Well, that's great. So, anything else worth mentioning that's just kind of that sets you guys apart, that you're just really proud of this program or the curriculum? I'm kind of biased. I'm proud of 100% of it. I mean, we want our kids leaving here not just able to read and write, but to think and to reason for themselves, but above everything else, just to love Jesus. I mean, I would love, in a perfect world, all of the kids would graduate with straight A's, and it would be fantastic. But, if I have a straight C student, but that student loves Jesus, that is more important to me than anything else. And so we really, it's not an absolute requirement that every family that comes to UCA
be an active member of a church. We prefer it because we want what we're doing here supported in the home. But, we're teaching our kids to go out and be disciples, and that is above everything that we're doing here. And so I just invite anybody that has any questions or wants to take a tour to swing by and come and visit us. We'd love to have them.
Well, again, we're here at Uvalde Classical Academy, Larri and Wright here, and it is school choice week. So, if there's any enrollment information or a phone number, how can people get in touch with you? You got a website and all that stuff?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, which is at uvaldeclassical.org. If they have any specific questions, they can call us here at 591-2242, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We begin our open enrollment for new students on March 1st, or actually I think March 2nd is the Monday. So they're welcome to come by and get information before that.
And what is it, just for those who might be listening right now, what is that enrollment process? Pretty easy? Is there a few, is it kind of, you got to get a fit, kind of, you're going to screen these a little bit, right?
We do want to make sure that families are a good fit for UCA, but that also, like I said, that we're a good fit for them, because we're just not the best option for some families. They don't prefer what we're doing. So it is relatively simple. We take a tour and get some basic information. Then if the family's interested in applying, they apply. We have a family interview. We want to talk to the kids. We want to talk to everybody that lives in the house, because we want everyone on board. Even if all of the kids are not coming here, we want everybody on board and supporting what we're doing here. And so we'll do a family interview. And then once we and the family agree, yes, everything's good to go, then we just enroll the student and go from there. It's pretty simple.
Sounds like a smart process, and it sounds like you guys are doing great things. I mean, I've come a long way in 10, 12 years, right?
We have. God has done amazing things here, that's for sure.
Congratulations. Again, that's going to wrap it up here. Uvalde Classical Academy. Again, let me get the information again one more time. It's uvaldeclassical.org, or you can call that number, okay?
Yep.
830-591-2242. Get more information, take a tour, and get those kids enrolled if that's something that you feel, or maybe God puts on your heart to do so. So anyway, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
That's going to wrap it up here at Uvalde Classical Academy with Uvalde Radio.